GT with the Vibe podcast coming at you again. It's been a little bit since I've recorded anything. We're going to dive back into it. I'm going to do a 3-part series entitled How to Fix Marriage. Episode 1 is going to be talking about what happens when your marriage doesn't work out. We're going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk a little bit about marriage and how it was created, what it means, its value. 2, we're going to talk about the race, obviously. There's the part where you kind of go through the motions and you learn about each other and you kind of go on the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys, right? And then the 3rd is going to be the starting line, starting from day 1. So we'll dive into this episode entitled Divorce. It's going to be part of the 3-part series entitled How Do We Fix Marriage? So I'll start with what marriage is, and we're going to go to a verse out of Matthew chapter 19, verse 4 through 6. It reads, "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, 'For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate.'" So marriage was created as a covenant. It was created in order for a man to leave his parents, and then as a father gives his daughter up to the to-be husband, they become one person. It's the only time that a math equation where you get 1 + 1 = 1. You put two things together, they stick together like glue. And I liked what it said at the end, that what God has joined together, let no one separate, right? So he did not create it for separation, but today we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about separation. And another thing he also created for us for man and woman. I'm not of the mindset of all this other stuff that goes on in America or in society. I still hold to those values, that's what it was created for, and that's what it's supposed to be. When you start to dive into the other stuff, which we'll talk about that in the second part of this, societal changes that have caused problems for marriages and kind of depreciate the value of marriage, essentially. So we'll start talking about that. So in society, marriage is created as a covenant between man and woman, where you become one. It's a sacred, ordained unity created by God Himself. And it was not created under the premise of, it's like popsicles where you just like pop one and then pop the next one and then pop the next one. It's a lifelong commitment that most people don't take serious anymore like they should, or like they used to take serious. And I think society has kind of put their hands in the cookie jar a little much. I know some of the old school marriages. I mean, a lot of people that are baby boomers that have been married, they've been married for 20, 30, 40 years. And it's nice to see that still exists out here, because a lot of times when you kind of look around society, you see a lot of single moms with a whole bunch of kids, or single dads with some kids, and it's not supposed to be that way. That's not how it's created. Personally, I made the mistake of having a baby before marriage. Well, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but that's what happened. So I understand that side of it, understand that point of view, understand how that can determine whether or not you get married to somebody, because some people will have a kid and then they'll get married because they had a kid, and then you run into all these other things during the race part of marriage, during that kind of part where you're kind of building and making things happen. And so I understand that, because I was there. That's what I did. And so I understand that piece. I know where that comes from. Now, other societal things that I've seen over the past, I'd say probably decade or so. I mean, going back to like 2010, because I remember when I was in high school, it wasn't like the promiscuity out here in the world, the partners where you just have a whole bunch of partners. I mean, it was happening, but it wasn't like glorified. I mean, you kind of saw the rap movies, you kind of saw the R&B things where they were kind of sexualizing everything, sexualizing women. So you kind of saw that, but you didn't really get to a point where it was like a huge deal. And I think as social media grew, because I remember it used to be MySpace back in the day, and then you got Facebook, and then you got Instagram, you got TikTok, you got people learn more from TikTok than they do from books nowadays, which is ridiculous to me. put the thing down and read a book. But they learn more from TikTok. So I'm like, man, yeah, I heard this from TikTok. And so society has changed, and everything's gone faster. So everything's at your fingertips now, and that's a danger to relationships, right? So as you tend to try to build relationships with everything at your fingertips, evil things are at your fingertips. Things that you don't probably need, that you should not be exposed to, are at your fingertips too. And so you think that, how did that change marriage? Well, I think number one, you can get a divorce with relative ease through no fault. I think that society has made marriage a business transaction where it's more business-like than it is a covenant. And a covenant is something that, the Lord made a covenant with us. That's something that's not broken. So when you think of covenant, you think eternal, you think something that's never going to be broken. And so now marriage was created as a covenant, but now it's turned into a business, more business transaction like, right? And so I think that you have to take the business side out of marriage, and then maybe people will get married for the right reasons, as opposed to some people get married to gain wealth. Some people, like, there are women out there that will chase men that are rich, and so they'll marry to get wealth, and then they'll stick around in that and just kind of that's that. And then maybe they divorce that guy that they got the wealth from, and now they got a percentage of his paycheck, so now they can go marry somebody else. And so this guy's paying for this gal, and she's marrying somebody else. And so that is the business transaction of marriage. And I think that society, and I think that governmental programs and assistance and things like that have kind of gotten involved to a point where it's made it to where marriage's value is kind of dipped. I wouldn't say kind of dipped, it is definitely dipped, because less people are getting married now than they used to. And then you also look at the divorce rate. 48% is pretty high. I mean, it's almost 50% of all marriages end in divorce. I saw a stat that said that a marriage ends every 36 seconds. So damn near twice a minute, a marriage is ending. And so that brings you to the question of, like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is the problem? What's going on? And I think that there are men out there that will say women are the problem, and I think that there are women out there that say men are the problem. I've heard it all. I've heard dudes say women are ran through something, promiscuous women. That, I mean, rarely do you find a woman that hasn't had sex yet by the time you try to get married. And a lot of them, they'll go through their hoe phase. That's what they say. They call it a hoe phase. It's retarded as hell. I don't believe that you should be sharing your body with a whole bunch of different men, because I think that that's a sacred thing. Like, you share your body, you get a piece of that person, right? You don't get the good pieces oftentimes. So you just get a bunch of damaged women out here with a bunch of pieces of different dudes that they slept with. They end up being those are some of your most emotionally damaged women, that when you try to get in a relationship with them, they're carrying a whole bunch of baggage. Men, I mean, what can we say about men? I mean, there's men out there that are lazy. They don't want to work. They don't aspire to be anything. They just kind of just are there. They just exist. Those type of men first of all, it's not what we were created to be. We are builders of, so we build our value. We are builders of value. And if you are just a lazy bum who sits on the couch all day, you don't really do anything, you don't have no ambition, that doesn't sound very manly to me. So there's men out there like that. There's more men like that now than it used to be. And then there's more women that just have a whole bunch of sex partners than it used to be. And so now you put those two things into a melting pot, and you add in social media, Snapchat, Instagram, like I said, TikTok, Facebook, all these different sites where you could take a woman that may be a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, and she can, like, spread her wings across the whole world. And so you add that in, and then you got dudes, you have pictures of photos popping up everywhere, naked women, whatever. And it's like just always plastered in your face. So like I said, you put all that into a melting pot, and then you have a problem. And so I think that the problem is it's become chaos now. And so when you look at marriage and relationships, it's become straight chaos. You don't have men that want to lead. You have women that want to lead, I'm going to probably get some kickback on this, But I will tell you this: what I learned from Adam and Eve, that Adam's sin was allowing his woman to lead him, and then Eve's sin was thinking that she could lead her husband. And so when you look at it like that, I mean, if you let your woman lead and then whatever happens, good luck to you. And so I believe that our world that we live in, society, is definitely feminized a lot. And I think that everything that even me as a churchgoer, I think that church has become feminized as well a lot. And so that's where society comes. So then now you don't have men going to church with their wife. Now you got husbands that don't go to church with their wives. Their wives go to church because it makes them feel good, right? So it's all feel good, feel good, feel good. And I think that men, we don't want to go somewhere just because of feeling. We don't make a lot of decisions based on our feeling. We want to feel change. We want change to happen. And if we don't think that we can have that change happen where we're going, we'll go somewhere else, or we won't go at all. And so I think that that's a problem too, that you have women who go to church with their husbands. You got husbands that go here or husbands that don't go at all. And so I think that being that God ordained marriage, I think that churches should take that more serious because it was ordained by God. So where do we need to go back to get marriage back to where it's supposed to be? We need to go back to church. I mean, I think that's a huge starting point. But society doesn't like that. Society is all about free will, freedom. What I understand is this, that when you give a whole bunch of freedom, we are men, we are created, and our Creator knew when He created us the type of people that we would be, right? And so I think that we know the type of people that we are too, and so we don't miss a beat. You give us a whole bunch of freedom, what the heck you think we're going to do with it? Probably something stupid. And so I think that as we continue to push and society continues to push their agenda, people are listening, right? People are listening. And so the fact that people are listening tells you something. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and we're talking about, the divorce rate among lesbians is higher than the divorce rate amongst actual married men and women. That should tell you something, right? There's something innate that's happening in society that has pushed us to the brink, to where men don't want to marry women. They don't want to marry anybody. They just want to do their own thing. And women want to go and live the free life, or whatever the heck they call it, and freedom. And we know what that means. I don't have to tell you guys what that means. You guys know what that means. They want to go have their freedom. And so by the time they get done having their freedom, men are like, well, we don't want you now. Like, you've had your freedom and you have your freedom in your glory years. When you think about it, women's glory years are probably in their 20s to early 30s. Men, like I said, as you're building value, we probably hit our peak like in our 40s, more than likely, if you actually have a dude that's actually building value, not just being lazy, sitting on the couch playing video games all day. A guy that goes to work, pushes hard, tries to build something, right? And so when you look at that and you look at the direction that we're going, it's like we're going away from each other, essentially, in essence. And so yeah, society has definitely plagued us. It's definitely hurt marriages. It's going to continue to hurt marriages until we take back our control, and not let the government get involved with it. Because let's talk about the government side. This first episode is entitled Divorce, so we're going to talk about that. What if we fix divorce in a way that changes some of the reasoning behind people getting married? So if you want to get married based on trying to, you marry a rich guy. So say you want to marry a rich guy, but you know that you can't get half of his stuff when you get married. You're probably less likely to just marry a dude because of his money. If you know you're not going to get nothing out of it, it's not a business transaction, right? And so I got a couple of things that I think would help fix the marriage through fixing divorce, making divorce less of a business transaction and more of a, okay, well, if you came in with not a lot, you're probably going to leave with not a lot too. So it's probably more likely that you would try to stay and work on it other than leave because of some dumb reasons that I've heard. I'm looking at 50-50 custody. I think that should be mandatory anyway. Dudes out here chasing their exes to see their kids is crazy to me. I think that if you take that power out of the female hands, they may make some different decisions. Because I think what it comes down to is when you look at the reasons why people get divorced, men and women totally different, two totally different sides of the coin. Women are more about being happy. Men are more about like, we will stick around for a long time. I was reading in a book by Esther Perel, just kind of looking up some of her vlogs and stuff like that, that it takes men fall in love quicker and they stay in love longer than women do. Women fall in love. So it takes them a while to fall in love, but they fall out of love quickly. They move on quicker. So typically what happens is when a relationship ends or a marriage ends, men will take the time to work on themselves. They will better themselves, try to build value to themselves. They'll grieve. However long it takes for them to grieve, they'll grieve it, and then they will move on to the next thing. Women move on quickly. It's easier for them to move on. Number one, because they control sex. If you control sex, it is easier for you to move on. I've heard females say they fall in love through sex. I think that's fucking retarded, but that's what they say. And what happens is they will go sleep with a bunch of guys after they divorce and then lose their ever loving mind, like lose their shit. Because like I said earlier, when you sleep with a whole bunch of people, you are connecting to them in an intimate way. And every person that you connect with in an intimate way leaves something with you. And so sometimes that something that they leave with you isn't good. Because if they didn't want good for you in the first place, they're not going to leave good with you. And so now you've become damaged goods, essentially. Let's be honest, damaged goods. And so once you become damaged goods, it's hard now. You can't just turn around and be like, well, I want a guy now. I want a good dude now. Good dude is not going to want damaged goods because we can tell. We're not stupid. Men are not dumb. We may act dumb as hell, but we ain't dumb. Trust me. And so you get damaged goods. And so that's part of the problem, is that women have to take a step back and work on themselves when things end too. Now, do all women do the same thing? No, absolutely not. There are women out there that probably would do the right thing once something ended and work on themselves. But the majority of women will probably do what most women do, just move on to the next. Gone. Click, click, click. While the man grieves. I know a couple dudes that have been divorced and they grieve. I mean, it takes years. But then once they get back on it, but they're ready. Their readiness for the next thing is higher than most females when they get in this situation. And so I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. Child support reform too. I think that it should not be a percentage of income. I think that it should be based on the child's needs. If you're together with somebody, you're together with your spouse, and while you guys are together, kids, soccer, shoes, school clothes, things like that, say you pay $1,000 a month. We're just going to do a roundabout number, and that's for the kids' needs, right? You get divorced and they're like, well, we need you to pay $3,200 a month. And you're like, well, where's all the other money going? Because it's not actually child support. That's the thing that kind of irks me about the system, is it's not technically child support. And the problem is that the men that will pay it don't get to see their kids. The men that won't pay it do get to see their kids. So it doesn't make any sense in the first place. But I think if you change that, you change a couple of those things, you eliminate alimony for working spouses. So if the other spouse was working, then you don't need to be taking somebody else's money while you're working. You need to keep working and take care of yourself, and then he needs to keep working and take care of himself, or vice versa. And another thing that I've kind of spoke on before is if one spouse has the means to take care of the kids, they should get majority custody of the kids. It shouldn't be this person has the means to take care of the kids, but we're going to give the kids to this person, and we're going to split the means that this person has to take care of the kids. That makes zero sense. Like, it never made sense to me why courts would do that, because then you drop people below the poverty line. And that's a personal opinion of mine, that you drop people below. When you drop kids below the poverty line, you start to have more problems, right? Problems that you don't want to have. And so I think that you eliminate those things in divorce, and takes the business transaction part out of it. Obviously, if you want a prenup, whatever, do what you got to do. But if you want a prenup, you're getting into it with the mindset of, this is a business transaction, right? So if I come and if I'm getting married and I'm like, hey, we need to get a prenup, it's because this is a business transaction. It's not a marriage. And if you're going to be business partners, then you can go open a business together. Marriage is not, that's not a place for business, and it's become a place for business. And I think that that's part of the problem in marriages, is that it's become a place for business, where now we're business partners as opposed to husband and wife, right? And people step out of their roles. They try to do what the other partner's doing, or they think that the other partner ain't doing it, so I'm going to try and do it, or they devalue the other partner. I mean, there's all kind of things that go into it. But I think fixing divorce, fixing what people are. So when you get into a marriage, if you don't get anything to get out of the marriage, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. If you come in with nothing, you should leave with nothing. If you come in with a little bit, you should leave with a little bit. If you come in with a lot, you should leave with a lot. But coming in and then getting more to get out is basically just handing the keys to them. Here, you might as well just get divorced, because you're going to get more when you get out anyway. So you're going to get more than what you brought. So if you come to the table, my mom always told me, if you come to the table and your plate's empty, don't expect to eat, right? Don't come to the table and put yourself in a position where you have nothing, but you're expecting everybody else to give you something, right? Don't do that. Come to the table with what's real, and then you can keep it real while you're doing that, right? And so bring something to the table. And if you bring something to the table, then you leave the table with something. That's how it should be. But making it to where it is an advantage to a partner to leave the marriage, they get an advantage, right? There's an advantage to it. That is not good. That is incentive to leave. And so what the government has done is given incentive to leave predominantly to women. I'm going to be honest with you. Predominantly to women. They have given women incentive to leave marriages. And then we wonder why 70% of the divorces are females. They have been given incentive to leave a marriage. Now, are there females out there that do dumb stuff and then end up getting divorced and don't get anything? Yes. If you do some dumb stuff, then yeah, that'll probably happen to you. It'll be hard for you to get anything. But that's on you. That's a personal thing. But for the majority of the time, when women do seek for divorce, they get the benefit, right? And so that is a problem. And so here you have men hanging on tight, and then women are ready to let go because they know, if I go, Kanye said it, she gonna leave a half. That's what he said. And he was definitely speaking truth when he said that. I was singing that song back in the day. That song reigns true today. And so you have to look at those problems. If you give incentive to leave a relationship, they're probably going to leave a relationship. Understand this too. As we look at deception, women are probably more easily deceived than men are. Because if you play on their emotions, you probably got them. Just play on their emotions, you probably got them. And so that's what the government has done. And so now the government is running households as the father and the husband in the house, and men are just out here doing their own thing. And so how do we get back and restore order? Well, we take the government and the business out of marriage and divorce, because divorce is a part of marriage. Like, if you come to the end and you decide to end it, divorce is a part of marriage. Let's just be honest with you. And so changing that, making that less of an incentive, I think helps on the back end, because at the end of the day, if you come into a relationship with somebody and you know it's real and you understand, I can't get shit out of this at the end, but heartbreak and tears, well, you're probably going to work hard while you're in it, right? You'll put the effort in, because when you have incentive to leave, effort goes down. So incentive to leave makes effort go down. So if we're making effort go down in relationships because we're giving incentive for people to leave, what the heck do you think is going to happen? They're going to leave, or people will stop getting married. And what you're seeing is both. People are leaving, but then there's people that are like, nah, I ain't even touching that. Like, I'm not touching that, because if I touch that, I'm going to be in some whole world of hurt. And so they're not doing anymore because of that. That's the reason why they're not doing it. Men aren't wanting to get married. Women aren't wanting to get married because women want to go do their own thing. Men want to go do their own thing. And they're like, well, shoot, we get together and then it's going to be, then what if it doesn't work out? And then I'm going to lose everything. This person's going to get it a lot. And so it's like this back and forth. It's always a battle. And so we have to understand that. But I think that fixing that will help us as we push forward, because our next episode, we're going to go through the race I call it the amazing race because it's definitely long distance. It's not a sprint. It's a long distance. Marriage is 100% a long distance race. There's going to be times when you're super tired. There's going to be times when you're worn out. There's going to be times when you're not happy. There's going to be times when you're not getting what you need out of it. There's going to be times when you're giving more than you're getting. There's going to be times when you got to pick up slack for your partner. There's going to be those times. And we're going to talk about those times when we talk about the race, because that to me is important and people forget that. A buddy of mine was telling me you have to be okay being unhappy in your marriage. You have to learn how to be unhappy in your marriage, because if you're solely basing everything on happiness, good luck to you on finding that, because you'll get a glimpse and then guess what? It'll be gone. Then you'll just keep jumping relationship to relationship and keep it on pushing. And so that's all I got for you guys today's GT the Vibe podcast. We'll see you guys soon.